What's going on, everybody? This is Adam. Welcome back to Nebraska Hawk's Nest. Give us a like and subscribe so you can get all the latest updates for our Iowa Hawkeye interviews. Want to welcome today, needs no introduction at all, Iowa Hawkeye legend, Ricky Stanzi. How's it going?
Good, man. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. We're super excited to have you here. And just tell us a little bit about right now what you have going on and what you're up to. I see you're working for, is it it's Goda?
Goda, you got
Yep.
it.
All
Yeah,
right.
you got it on the
Awesome.
first try.
Tell us
Nice.
tell us about what you're up
So
to.
basically, yeah, so I'm a movement coach inside the GOTA system. I'm a professor coach, so new coaches are coming in and are getting certified. I help them, kind of guide them through the system. We work online with people to start, and then we'll transition to a lab weekend in our brick and mortar facilities down in New Orleans. So between training new coaches and then training athletes at the same time of all different ages and sports, I've been pretty busy, just kind of, helping people move better. A lot of what we do is all of what we do is based in slow motion study. So it's been a nice easy transition for me as a football player, watching a ton of film on the X's and O's. I've kind of transitioned that into the movement, and it's something that kind of grew as a passion as I was playing, trying to kind of fix my own mechanical errors, and it just kind of started to snowball. And by the time I was 2018, once I was out of football, I knew that I wanted to do something that had to somewhere in the performance training, corrective exercise world. And then, after kind of researching and looking for short of a decade, I kind of found Coach Gilly and Coach Gary on Instagram and started talking with them and understanding their system better. And, they kind of welcomed me with open arms, and one thing led to another. And now I'm helping teach the system and trying to help affect change for the next group of athletes that come behind us.
Is that something that you see yourself doing long term, or is this something that you feel like could potentially be a stepping stone into coaching?
This is really where I want to be for I'd say for forever. I love coaching, I love teaching, but I kind of don't want to do it just in the football world, just in the X's and O's world, just in the quarterback world. I kind of like that I'm able to work with, ages and different ages, different groups, different sports, different disciplines, and it's it kind of lets me do both. It lets me teach, lets me coach, but kind of also gives me a little bit of independence to where I go and do that at.
I got to tell you, you look really, really clean cut right now. And you know what? Are you ever going to bring the long hair back? Because that was kind of a staple back in the day.
Yeah, I had every bad haircut I could possibly had. It. So looking back now, I can kind of see that, yeah, I'm just gonna stick to the crew cut, stick to the clean shave. The growing the hair days are definitely done. My younger brother, who's like 6'8", he's got long, beautiful hair, so he's still carrying on the tradition
Okay.
of growing out the long hair. But for me, I'm sticking to the crew cut from here on out. I'm a dad
Okay.
now, so I've kind of just moved right into dad life, and I just same haircut, same pair of jeans, just on repeat.
I remember, I believe it was after your injury, would have been your junior year that I think you buzzed your
Hmm.
hair, and
Yeah.
everybody was like, "What in the hell? Like, what?" Like it was just, it kind of become almost like iconic that
Yeah.
the long hair. So,
Yeah, it was
um,
it was fun while it lasted, but it's like it's one of those things. It's like I look back at the photos and I'm like, just like roll my eyes. I'm like, it was a typical young kid thing. Grow your hair out, go through the phase, and then looking back on it, I'm like, all right, I can say I did that. I don't ever have to, don't ever have to go back there.
you know how many young kids from Iowa, grew their hair out like that just
Grew their
because
hair
Ricky
out.
Stanzi had his hair like that.
Right.
So, very cool. But we always like to start out at the beginning. Like to hear about your recruiting process coming out of high school. Tell us about some of the schools that you were really, really hot on and that were hot on you.
Hmm.
What your thought process was. And I thought it was interesting going back. I didn't realize you were listed as a dual threat quarterback, which at Iowa, you were more of a pro style in the pocket quarterback. Tell us about that transition and your recruiting process.
Yeah, so really the offense that we ran in high school was that whole, spread offense, run and gun, playing out of the shotgun and using your fakes, and we would use a quarterback as a running back in that offense, and it was a nice balance between the run and the pass. So I was our lead rusher, so I kind of got dubbed as a dual threat. But I don't think I really ever had the speed or didn't in the Iowa offense didn't really call for that. So it kind of was I transitioned to more of a pocket passer when I got to Iowa. But during the recruiting process, I think people were looking at me as more of a pocket passer. Being in Ohio, Northeast Ohio, it really started with the MAC schools. It started with Akron, Miami of Ohio, Kent State, Toledo. Those were the first teams that kind of showed interest. And then there was, the interest from the Big Ten teams, Purdue, Michigan State, little bit of Ohio State and Michigan, kind of hearing from everybody. But the teams that were the most serious and that I was, looking at was really, it got down to Miami of Ohio and then Iowa. And I visited Miami of Ohio, loved it. It was a great campus. They had the MAC was just coming off of that, kind of pumping quarterbacks into the league. Big Ben, Chad Pennington. There was, some names that were floating around at that time, and the MAC was kind of, showcasing the quarterback talent. So that was intriguing for me, and I liked Miami of Ohio. But once I went to Iowa, and then having been from the Northeast Ohio, I loved Big Ten football. I always wanted to be a part of Big Ten football. And then getting on campus, and obviously Coach O'Keefe was not only my, recruiting coordinator, he was turned out to be my position coach and my coordinator. So I had a level of comfort there. And then meeting Coach Ferentz and seeing the campus, it was a done deal. Once I went to the campus and saw everything, I knew that Iowa was where I wanted to be.
Okay. I've always thought it was really interesting. I believe it was the '08 season when you and Jake Christensen were sharing reps, kind of going back and forth. And then the team eventually decided to go with you full time. No, nothing negative against Jake whatsoever. That I think the fans saw it from the beginning that, you just fit in the offense better, and the offense just flowed better and ran better. Once Jake was moved into that backup role, tell us about the dynamic in the locker room and the coaching offices, how that went, and if that affected your and Jake's relationship at all.
No, I mean, me and Jake still have a good relationship. I actually talk with him quite a bit because he trains quarterbacks, and the stuff I do with movement training, they kind of, work together. And so me and him are kind of always talking, to be honest. So we had a good relationship right from the beginning when we were there. And when he was starting the year before, I was doing what really every quarterback does in a quarterback room. You have to support your guys, you support your brothers. And so it was always that mindset the year before when I was the backup, and then even after that, when I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity, Jake was right there for me in reverse. And so I think that it's just kind of the mindset that we were instilled with at Iowa, where it was a team. It was unity first. It was respecting your teammates and then being there for your teammates regardless of what your situation was. And so the dynamic didn't really change. And we did go back and forth in 2008, and I know that Kirk didn't want to do that. The dual quarterback system it doesn't work very often, and it wasn't really what fit what we were doing at Iowa. I had a couple good games, and then I went out against Iowa State at home and stunk it up and got pulled. And so I think that they were probably having an internal battle, like, is Rick really ready? Jake has a little more proven. He's been out there, he's been in bigger games. And then it was kind of eventually Kirk called me into his office. He's like, "Hey, we're going with you. Like, we're going to go with you. You're going to get your opportunity." And that was comforting to me because as a young quarterback, you're going to make mistakes, and you don't want to be looking over your shoulder and kind of, okay, they're going to bring the guy back in. And so it was kind of nice to finally get that from Kirk, like, "Hey, go out there and lead this team." Luckily for me, the way Iowa is set up is, like I said, it's all about the team. We've had great running game, great defense, great special teams. So it was a perfect environment for me to kind of learn and grow as a quarterback and eventually progress and become a team leader, because I was still young at that point. I was really a backup the year before.
I thought it was interesting too how you talked about, how it meant a lot to you that you didn't have to worry about making a mistake ever because it was your job. One of the craziest things we always thought about you was every single time that you ever threw a pick, it's like you went down and scored the next drive. What was your mindset like? Because out of any Iowa quarterback I can ever remember, and a lot of fans have said this too, you never, ever seem to let an interception or like a pick six or anything rattle you. It almost was like, okay, we got that out of the way. Now let's go.
Yeah.
Tell everybody how you just rolled with it.
Man, I don't know. I guess where that mentality really starts. I probably have to give credit back to my father, because he was really the first person that was always about personal responsibility, self-responsibility, never make an excuse for any reason whatsoever. Look in the mirror and it's on you, be the leader. And so my mindset was always like, okay, I've got to get to that next play. I can't let it affect me. It's coach speak, and you do hear that a lot. Short memory, talk about quarterbacks, talk about golfers, talk about pitchers. These people that can DBs have that same idea. Like, I have to have a short memory because I could have that make or break play kind of fall on my shoulders. So, it was just kind of one of those things where sometimes it was almost like you shake that off early in the game, and you have that mistake, and then it just was, I don't know if it was easier to come back and make a play after that, because I almost felt like I needed to redeem myself. But the big thing for us as football players, as Iowa football players, what Coach Ferentz will try to teach us is that adversity is going to hit. Like, we're going to have a mistake at some point in this game. How you respond is what matters. And so I took that to heart, and that was just something that I think we embodied as a team. You saw that in 2009 with the Orange Bowl team. It didn't really matter what adversity was set in front of us. There was just kind of that, okay, this is what the challenge is. Let's go ahead and meet that. So shake it off was just something that I think it started when I was young, and it was just something that was reinforced from my father. And then it was, obviously fully reinforced with our coaching staff. And I have to give tons of credit to the way that the coaching staff ran things on the sideline on a Saturday. When the emotions are the highest, it was the most positive atmosphere I've ever really been around in football, where it was just super encouraging. Like I said, I threw 5 picks before the fourth quarter at Indiana, and Kirk didn't blink. Like, so it was, you had that feeling. It wasn't like there was everybody like staring at you and all those things. So it was always comforting. Everybody was always there to uplift you, and that makes it easier too, to have a great support staff.
I'm going to jump ahead to that Indiana game, because that was a game where, man, we got up to a slow start there, and it just did not look like it was going to happen for us. I believe that was the pinball play where Sash caught that interception.
Yeah.
And what a wild game. It just, we could not get things rolling. And then eventually, again, like you talked about, the resiliency of you and the team, it's just, they kept digging, and they kept, doing their job, doing what we do. And all of a sudden, next thing you know, we have the lead. Can you walk us through that crazy game?
Yeah, it was wild. Like, I can't even, I can remember the picks, and I remember like a couple of them. I remember the one going into, I forget which, wherever they just did the renovation, and I was throwing to the left, and I'm like, oh, got him. And I let this thing go, and I'm like, whoa, what happened? Pick. And it was like, there was like 2 of those, and I'm like shaking my head. I'm like, man, what's going on? And I try to throw an out route, and I completely miss. And it was just one of those things where I'm like, shaking my head like, whatever, it's fine. We're gonna find a way. But then you can't talk about that game without talking about the defense and the run game and how strong our defense was. I mean, if I don't have that kind of defense there, and we don't have that kind of defense at Iowa in 2008 and 2009, the record could look a lot different, because there was a lot of times where you're put into tough situations by a pick six that I threw, or by a bad field position, and the defense just would not break. It'd bend not break, and they would get us the ball back. They would give us opportunities, and it really, the tide turned in the fourth quarter. I think it was the beginning of the fourth that we hit Marvin on a simple naked out in the end zone, hit him on a simple over route, and then he did the rest. And we came back the next play, and we ran a double crosser, and DJ caught a ball and did what he does best, made some magic happen, and he got into the end zone. And then it was really like, then you could feel Kinnick just turn, and it was like, it's over. Once we got him where we want, it's over. And that was just the way that team was rolling at that point. It was kind of like I said, it was just, whatever the adversity is this week, we're going to step right over it. And, the one week it's got to block 2 kicks. The other week it's, well, we got 5 picks and we haven't, done anything with the football, and we need to have this explosive fourth quarter. So we were finding ways to win, finding unique ways to win. Like, a pick six from the goal line. Things like that were
Yeah.
kind of trending in our direction. And there was a lot of great memories and wild times that came from that season just because of the adversity putting us into these, tough little situations that we kind of had to claw our way out of.
Um, you mentioned it's almost like you're reading off the questions here because you've hit like on so many different things we wanted to talk to you about. DJK, a super talented guy, really naturally gifted receiver. It really seemed like during his time and more so after the kind of some things came out, it was almost fitting a square peg in a round hole a lot of times with with who he was and the coaching staff. A little oil and water type of deal. Can you let us in on what it was like playing with DJK and how talented he was, and maybe what it was that made him butt heads with the coaching staff a little bit?
I mean, we knew this when it was Saturday. We had to put on the chin strap, and it was time to go. Darrell was there, and he was gonna make plays, and he was somebody that I was looking to throw the ball to. I knew that he was going to run his routes. He was going to, he was going to be coachable from the respect of, me voicing to him, hey, on this cover two, I need you to find that spot. On cover three, we need. And so he was a tremendous teammate in that regard, and we had a great relationship on the field and with the X's and O's, and it was a cool little relationship that we had with me, Darrell, and Marv. We had all played the quarterback position. So Darrell had played quarterback in high school. He was very successful in high school playing quarterback. Obviously, super talented. Marvin was extremely successful at quarterback. So they knew what it was like to sit back there. And so we had a great relationship where I could talk openly to them about coverage and about finding those spots. And if they had an idea or they liked the play, we had just had open line of communication. And so we knew when it was time to roll that we were gonna, we were going to have the opportunity to make plays. And as long as we were doing what we needed to do and trusting the coaching staff was going to put us in the right positions, it was going to be up to us to go ahead and go ahead and get six whenever we needed it.
Well, one time you did get six when you really, really needed it. Again, that magical season against Michigan State. Had multiple opportunities to try to get the ball into the end zone.
Yeah.
And I'm going to just shoot you straight. Caused a little home damage at my house at the end of that game. Just the celebration. Walk us through that final drive. What you were seeing out there on the field, and what play that a lot of fans now refer to as the McNutt slant.
Yeah, it was, that game, we did absolutely nothing on offense. The stats were awful. We couldn't move the ball. We had some opportunities in the second half. I actually recently watched that game because we did a little sort of one of these things, like a Zoom with, some people that were fans and boosters. And so we were going back to that game and talking about it. And we did have more opportunities than I remembered down in the red zone, kind of later in the game. We just weren't able to get in the end zone. And Michigan State's always had a tough defense. They played a very straightforward, this press cover four, and thought we had some good ideas for that, and we couldn't quite, move the ball early on, but we started to get opportunities. We started to move the ball late in the game, and while we didn't score, we did start to get a little bit of momentum offensively, hey, we can move the ball. We just need to finish a drive here. And fortunately, we were able to finish the drive that we needed to finish. But that 2-minute was really, we practiced that every week. Every Thursday, we would go through a 2-minute, and I think it was funny because we usually always did it. And I remember Coach Ferentz saying, did you realize that we didn't practice the 2-minute this week? Because I think there was something that happened on Thursday and we didn't do the 2-minute drill that week. And so I think Kirk was reflecting on it, and he was I wasn't going to say anything, but it was, a little heart wrenching on the sideline. We didn't do 2-minute, and this is the week that we need the 2-minute drill. But things got going when we hit a double in, and Darrell caught it, and it kind of got things going. It was that game we didn't have Marvin for most of the game because he had beaten up his hand, I believe. And so it wasn't until Colin was injured that Marvin came in. And so later in the game, we were able to actually have Marvin in the game because he wasn't playing most of it. He was going to just kind of sit out that game. But there was a couple big plays in that drive that gave us a little boost. We had a big in to Darrell. Trey Strauss caught a little 5-yard under that he was able to take upfield, and then we were once we got down into the red zone, we had 4 shots at it, and they played us in really the same coverage each time. They were blitz zeroing us. They were bringing it all out. And so once we saw that, and it was like they're going to do it again, we got to the sideline. Coach called that timeout, and we were just kind of, all right, let's doctor this slant up. Let's get Marvin, a big body, into the boundary. We'll motion Tony over just to make it look clean and so we can see that it's man to man. Get that man to man indicator, and then once we lined up and it was 2-by-2 and we were motion Tony and I'm like, it's game, because Marvin's going to win that slant 10 out of 10 times. And, it's just really pitch and catch at that point. So it was a wild game. It was one of those had to have moments. And we felt so frustrated all game because we couldn't move the ball. So to finally get that victory, it was just another one of those games during that season that was just like, what's next? I mean, this is crazy.
Yeah, I can neither confirm nor deny that a China hutch was knocked over in my house after that happened. Just the pandemonium and the craziness after that. That was a very cool moment that I'll never forget. I remember I had my black Stanzi jersey on till halftime. Things weren't going well. I switched to the white, and well, you can thank me later.
Well, that had what it was.
Yeah. Had to change the mojo up a little bit. Have you guys ever had conversations? I know as Iowa fans we have, how great of a back Shaun Green was, if you guys were able to have him for that season.
Yeah, I mean, what he did in 2008 was really our offense, and his production was incredible. Obviously, looking back, you could always say, wow, that'd be cool to have Shaun Green on the 2009 team. But we always had a strong running attack. I mean, it's Iowa to me is O-line U. And so the run game was, we were playing chess out there. We had a lot of run alerts, we had a lot of run game checks, and Coach Ferentz was always doctoring up the run game to give us clean looks. And so Shaun kind of showed you what the Iowa run game was capable of. He put a talented, really talented big body guy back there, and he was just terrorizing the Big Ten in 2008, terrorizing anybody he played. And then, the next year we still had a strong run game, and we were still able to be productive when we needed to be. And, it was always all 3 phases, offense, defense, special teams. That was harped on. It was one play at a time, all 3 phases have to show up. And so we were always thinking in that mindset as a football team that, hey, everybody's got a job to do. Do your job, and we will see the result that we want.
Moving on over to towards the end of the season, going down with the ankle injury. And I don't know why it just seems like Northwestern is always just such a thorn, always. Yeah. And Pat Fitzgerald's a hell of a football coach, and he I don't know that he gets enough credit for being as good of a coach that he really is. He's phenomenal. Walk us through that injury at the end of the season and having to, sit out. I believe you had surgery, and then being able to transition into playing in the Orange Bowl that year.
Yeah, I mean, Northwestern, a tremendously coached team, great program. Coach Fitzgerald does an amazing job. I had a bunch of friends from Northwestern once I went to the NFL, and they were great dudes. They're just like us guys. I mean, they're, just bunch of Big Ten football players, hard-nosed, they worked hard, one play at a time kind of, group. And so we had a lot of great battles with them. That was an unfortunate game. It started off like we thought we were just going to run roll because we came right out the gate, scored on the first couple drives, and I just got stuck in a bad position and, ended up being an injury. Fortunately, it was an injury that I was able to at least come back for the bowl game, which was good. It was, one of those things where I was like, man, did I break my ankle? Did I what's going on down here? So kind of getting the reassurance from the staff that, hey, we get this thing, we had the surgery. It'll be structurally sound. There'll be a little bit of rehab, miss a few games, but then we were able to, you'll be able to make it back for the Orange Bowl. So it was, it stunk to be out, but it didn't really, to me, it didn't take away from the season that we had. It was such a fun run. And even, there as an injured guy, kind of taking that role as trying to be more vocal as a leader in that sort of spot where I got to help the young quarterbacks. I'm injured, but you got a job to do still. Like I talked about earlier with Jake, that's a room. It's a quarterback room. We all need to be there for each other. So even with the surgery, it wasn't just like, okay, yeah, go home and play Xbox. No, you need to be there and help the next guy out, help Andy out, and keep the team moving and keep the ship going. So, it was one of those things. What's the next piece of adversity that we're going to fight? And so that was kind of part of it. But it's one of those things you'll learn from, and you move on, and you just use it to build that sort of adversity armor.
Going into that Orange Bowl, a lot of the big talk was around the defense, whether we were going to be able to adjust and to that option style offense that they ran. Very unique, not really done very much anymore. And with us having that extra time to prepare, I would think that helped quite a bit. That was the one thing people were kind of worried about, like, oh, that we haven't seen anything like that all year. Are we going to be able to stop that? Can you walk us through, and I don't know how much, you were able to see from the offensive side, but the preparation that the defense went through trying to get ready for that offense, and then also a little bit about the offensive preparation for that bowl game.
Yeah, I mean, the work that Coach Parker did there was, I mean, it was amazing. And, obviously his history of having, been around the game so long, he had seen that before. And so they really switched the whole defense. I mean, they switched the whole defense around to kind of stop what Georgia Tech was doing. So I think that was the first part, was them not being stubborn to think, well, we're going to play what we play, and we're just going to stop. It's like, no, we're going to see what they do, and then we're going to be smart about this because it is so unique. So that move right there, it just put our players in a better position. You look at what Adrian was able to do in that game. If you look at the defense, they just never really let them get going. And we knew that, hey, on offense, if we get out to somewhat of a lead with these guys and we make them throw the football, make them uncomfortable, right? The last thing we want to do is get into this sort of battle where it's just a run game battle. That's what they want. They want that. So we need to get up a couple scores. We need to put the pressure on them, make them start to throw the ball, make their quarterback get uncomfortable. I think that combination, really helped us have control of that game for what felt like all four quarters. The score was a little closer than I think the control of that game felt. And I think it starts back with Coach Parker's experience, knowing that, hey, we can't be stubborn here and just do what we do. We have to kind of switch some things up to match this very unique attack that they have on offense. And then our thought process as an offense was sort of to complement what the defense was trying to do. And like I said, that was Coach Ferentz's thing. This is a team game. We have to play that way. We have to strategize that way. And it doesn't hurt that you have more time to get ready for a game like that. From a couple standpoints, I was able to get healthy. The defense was able to scheme this thing up a little bit. And it just, it provided a really nice ending to the season. It was a lot of fun. We had a blast in that game. I know the fans had a blast in that game. The coldest Orange Bowl ever, I think it still is. But that's a great memory for a lot of fans and a lot of players and a lot of family.
I don't know how much you remember because, I'm sure all the festivities were going on right there. But at the end of the game, you get asked, I thought was a very odd question. And, getting put on the spot, coming from the heartland, what does this mean for middle America? And then you drop probably the most famous quote of any Iowa football in history. Being an American's great, like USA #1. If you don't love it, leave it. Was that like, what preempted you to say that? Like, obviously that couldn't have been planned because you didn't know he was going to ask that. Tell me how that unfolded.
Yeah. So, I always start that story with, citing that me and my roommates, we were watching a ton of Ricky Bobby at that time in our lives, right? There was like all these, so we were always kind of like talking in this Ricky Bobby tone and like saying like ridiculous things. And so it was one of those moments where, like, he asked the question. I don't know if he was trying to pit like a North versus South type thing and kind of, one of those. And I didn't know where he was really wanting me to go with that. And so I was like, I'm not even going to go there. I'm just going to kind of have fun with it and just kind of flip it around and make it funny. Make it, funny for really my teammates. Because if you see right after I say it, I turn around and I point at my roommates and I'm like, can you believe I just said that? And it was like, so it was one of those things, just to, like, we were in the heat of the moment. It was so much fun. We were having this great celebration. I mean, we got the hats. We're chucking oranges into the stands. Our fans are going nuts. Our family's there. It was just, I was in like a very happy mood at that time. And he asked that question, and I kind of, just like you did, I was like everybody did. I kind of chuckled and was like, where exactly do I go with this? And it just kind of switched into like, well, let's just kind of make it let's make it a little bit of a comedy. Get some laughs out of it. But it definitely is still alive and well today. I
Oh
say
yeah.
every 4th of July, actually since I started getting on social media, I was never on it before, but like every 4th of July, I just get these a bombard of tags and stuff about love it or leave it. So it's all in good fun. It's a great memory.
Yeah, that moment right there made you like a folk hero for Iowa
Yes.
athletics, and not only Iowa athletics, but the U.S. in general. Like
Yeah.
you said, every 4th of July, it's like that's the message. It's a picture of Ricky Stanzi with a flag in the background, and it says
Yep.
USA #1. If you don't love it, leave it. It's just
Yep.
so cool.
Yep.
And I just, it's too bad too. You probably didn't even see a penny out of all those T-shirt sales from that,
No.
because I know those T-shirts were pumping out at that time.
I remember we would go to Shields all the time. We'd go to the mall just to kind of waste time. I remember walking into Shields and I'm like, dude, there's what I said right there, like on a
Yeah.
t-shirt, And so there was a lot of that was going on, but there's a lot of funny t-shirts that were made at that time, kind of surround my name. And some of the fun stuff was that some of our friends were part of that, and so we have some of those T-shirts to this day. I remember my mom brought them over one day. She's like, "Do you want these? Do you want to wear them?" I'm like, I mean, I'm not going to wear that shirt like,
Hmm.
with my face on it that says Americanzi, love it or leave it. But they were funny shirts, so it was everybody had fun with it. It's just I think it also speaks to how great the fans are at Iowa, and just how passionate they are, and how much they love the players, and they love getting out there on Saturday to watch us play, traveling to different states to watch us play. You always felt that support, you always felt that love as a player, and so it was just it's really fun to look back and still have those great memories, still be able to share those great memories, and sharing them here. I've shared them with other podcasts, with other fans and friends, and it means a lot to those people. It's a big deal, and so it's really cool to be a part of that, and it's very humbling.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the greatest moments in Iowa football history, and that's got to feel pretty cool on your end to have been an integral part of that. We wanted to also talk to you about your pro career. There was a few teams, Kansas City Chiefs, Jacksonville Jaguars, just
Mhm.
to name a few. Walk us through a little bit of your journey in the NFL. I know a lot of Iowa fans, and I'm sure you probably caught wind of this, had some frustration with the Kansas City Chiefs because, at that time, the Chiefs weren't having a ton of success. And
Mhm.
I know Brady Quinn was number 2 there, and Matt Castle, I believe, was the starter. And
Mhm.
all the Iowa fans were really on the Chiefs' case, like, give Stanzi a chance, let him get in there and see what he can do. And it just never
Mhm.
seemed like they really gave you that opportunity.
I think it really, like I said earlier, about self-responsibility and kind of looking in the mirror. I look back on all that, and it really falls at your feet as a player. When you're given the opportunity, you really have to seize it. And I didn't do that. And like I kind of talked about earlier, why I do what I do today as a movement coach is because I struggled in the NFL. It's because I struggled. I struggled late in 2010. I struggled in that transition at the combine, and getting drafted by the Chiefs, and going to the team, and trying to form well, and struggling with my own mechanics, and how I was moving, and losing confidence, and being in a position where you don't feel as explosive or as confident as you should be in that position at quarterback. You just can't do it, especially at the highest level. So, I know people probably felt frustrated. I know my family and friends were frustrated at times, but for me, looking at it, I was like, I didn't take the opportunity that was presented to me and really run with it, because I was struggling. And every time I got cut, I deserved to be cut. And so I used those moments um, as teach tape for myself. I'm obviously not doing something right. Something's not right here that I need to fix. What is it? And that, like, what is it? That question was what turned into what I do today. So I look back on it and I'm super grateful for it. I'm super grateful for the adversity. I'm super grateful for those times where I was like, man, my confidence is at the lowest it's ever been. I don't know why, but I tell you this, I'm going to find out why, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make sure that some young quarterback learns from me some way, shape, or form so that they can play better. And so that was kind of, how I look at my pro career. And it was, I mean, it's awesome. Like I got to play in the NFL. I got to live in some awesome cities. I was fortunate to be in there for 4 years to get vested. So like those types of things, I mean, I can't look back on it and be bitter. It's one of those situations where you have to use the adversity or the uncomfortable times to grow. And that was what I did. And I didn't know it at the time. It was really just kind of a soul search to try to find out how to fix my own mechanical errors. And like I said earlier, it just started to snowball. And I got really interested in human movement and biomechanics and how the body needs to move. And if I wasn't wrecked myself, I wouldn't have figured out how to be unwrecked. Like, so being wrecked was very important to me. It's become a very important part of, my story and what I go to tell other people, other parents, other kids, other quarterbacks, other athletes. And so I look back on it, I'm like super grateful for that struggle because it taught me so much. And at the same time, I met a lot of great people, went to a lot of different cities, even got to go up to Canada and hang out with the great organization that is the Calgary Stampeders. I met a lot of great people that I'm still friends with today. So I look back on the pro career, and while it may not have been the result that I wanted on the field, all the stuff surrounding it was beautiful, and it helped kind of blossom into a second career.
That's a fantastic perspective. And, I think that's your experience with that and the way you describe that could be, I think anybody can put themselves in that position in their own life and draw parallels that, that you've taken any sort of adversity and really, made it as a blessing and a learning experience to, make you into who you are today. And I think that's very universal. So that's a pretty great way to look at things. Something else that was pretty damn great was when you were the honorary captain against Penn State. Now that speech, I'm telling you, I am not in shape, but I could have ran through a wall after I watched that speech, talking about going to hunt. They bring back the Penn State killer. You always had such good luck playing against the Nittany Lions. Mm-hmm. How much work did you put into coming up with that awesome speech? And what was it like being the honorary captain for that team? Because I remember, I had my surround sound turned up for that game. And when you were on the field and they recognized you, that place about blew up. You had to feel the love.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was like, I remember if you watch the video, I like put my hand right here. I was like, oh my God. Like, it was a wave of like, it really felt like a lot of gratitude. And it was just because, you put a lot of effort in when you're there, and we had great success. And, and we kind of ended with a bit of a struggle there in 2010, and to kind of come back and to be there in the middle, and all the fans, showing their appreciation. It was an awesome moment. And, that speech, I mean, I thought about it. I didn't write anything down, or I hadn't practiced it, not outside of it just floating around in my head. That's kind of how I do things. I just sit there and I'll just think about it, let it circulate. And then when it's time to go, I had a general idea of what I wanted to tell those guys. And it was kind of coming back to what Coach had instilled in us, was that this is a team. Like, you're a tribe. And so using the movement world that I'm in, and how we study the indigenous cultures and how they move, and having watched so many tribes go out to hunt, and seeing the type of communication and the type of stealth and the type of attention to detail that is needed to execute a hunt in the wild, it just was such a perfect parallel, and it was something that I could just talk about. And so I was able to just kind of go up there and just go with it. And if I hadn't swore so much, you guys would have been able to see more of that speech, because the video guys were like, dude, we had to like really comb through to find a clean couple sentences that I wasn't swearing.
I was surprised how short it was.
Yeah, it was much longer than that. It was much longer than that. So there was a lot that wasn't able to make it, because I was, getting the boys riled up. But it was a really cool experience to come back, to be in the new facility, but to see the same old faces, and to kind of, not only have that staff that helped make me be the person that could stand up there and give that speech back, but then to also be able to have my mom and my dad there, and my closest friends from the team, they were in the room. So like it was just a really cool moment. It was a really cool weekend, and then it was really capped off by just getting to see all my old buddies and old teammates. But then to be there at the 50-yard line, and you feel that love and that gratitude, and it was just like, whew, it was just a wave. It was really cool.
I know, just as a fan, I mean, I had goosebumps seeing that. It made me feel really good because, every Iowa fan has a ton of appreciation and gratitude for everything you did while you were a Hawkeye. And to see that really brought to life real time was just, it gave me goosebumps. So it had to have been awesome for you to feel that. And I've had some, everybody has had instances in their career where, they something didn't go quite right, and don't execute on something like you wish you would have. And I pulled that speech up periodically a few times since then and listened to that, and I'm telling you, man, it gets me fired up still. I listened to it this morning before we talked. It's just it's one of those things. I'm like, how is this guy not coaching football? Like, how are you not giving pregame speeches for a living? Like, I would,
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just, I was surprised. I'm like, I thought for sure after that, I'm like, I got to see a future in coaching with him. Did you get any sort of feedback after that speech?
Yeah, it was all positive. I had a lot of people that reached out and were like, dude, that was really cool. And there was a couple of radio stations back here that had kind of run that little bit of the speech. And so some of the people that I have, met back here after coming back home after being away for so long, they kind of reached out and it was kind of the same thing you said. Like people got fired up, and that's awesome. Like it's really cool for me to be able to hear that. When I was at Iowa, I wasn't really that. I gave a few speeches here or there, but it wasn't really how we did things. It was more of just like do your job, you handle the adversity, and then keep moving forward. And I always tried to keep my mindset kind of even keel. Never get too high, never get too low. Just stay right here. Picks or a touchdown coming off the field the same way. And so I never really got that elevated, but it kind of gave me that opportunity to, when I was removed from it, to kind of look back and I had all these things that I wanted to tell these young men to get them fired up. And, the great thing about what I do today as a coach and a teacher of a movement system is that I still get to do those things. Like I still get to go in front of a room and teach, and I get to. It may not be football players, and it may not be X's and O's, but it's coaches and it's athletes. It's the X's and O's of the body, and so I get just as excited, if not more excited, about that. And I still try to deliver that same type of leadership and that same type of excitement to them, because what we kind of do at GOTA is it challenges the norm. It challenges what's been previously thought about human movement. And so in order to do that, in order to kind of have that battle with the status quo, you got to put on a little bit of armor. You kind of got to have some thick skin. And I got real thick skin. 5 picks before the fourth quarter. So like I don't like to I don't get rattled. I don't want my other coaches and my athletes to ever get rattled. So I try to kind of give that back to them. And while me not being rattled is even keel when I play, as a coach and a teacher, it comes out with more fire, and it's more animated. But I still use all those things. And I was just talking to a young quarterback who I've mentored, for most of his quarterback life the other day. And we were just talking about the benefits of the position. It's the stats, the wins, that stuff's great. But the stuff that you learn at this position is like, it transcends everything. Like it goes into every corner of your life, and it's really cool if you're there to learn from it. And so I try to use that same quarterback mentality now as a movement coach and as a professor coach for these coaches and athletes and clients, and they need someone to lead them, and that's what I do.
It's really refreshing to hear you talk about it, because you're clearly somebody who's found their passion. And when you found your passion like that, you don't really ever go to work. It's not work. It's something that you love, labor of love. No.
It's definitely not work.
Yeah. So it's really cool to hear you talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, like it was just a passion that kept building. So it wasn't ever like, okay, when I get done with football, I'm going to go do this. It was like, no, I'm going to teach movement. Like, I don't know exactly what, or how that's going to look, because I was just kind of gathering information, but the passion was there. And then once, having talked to Coach Gilly and Coach Gary, and understand what GOTA was, and this idea of studying nature in slow motion, and observing nature's patterns, and using the new technology to truly slow it down, and to see how the indigenous move, and to see how the crawling baby moves, to see what it's supposed to look like at the source. Once I saw that, and then once I saw how I was moving, and why I was even in that position to try to figure it out in the first place, because I couldn't move the way I wanted to do, or execute what I needed to do, it was like it all came rushing. And so the passion was just, it just keeps building. The belief system just keeps getting stronger. And so it's fun to be able to use what you learned in football in the next career. It's really awesome. And at the same time, you're able to still kind of be in that world of football, give back to the young athletes, especially the young quarterbacks, and kind of help them not make the same mistakes that we made.
So, other than what you have going on with GOTA right now, tell us about where you're living, family life, and kind of just how
Mhm.
the personal life's going right now.
So I'm back home in Cleveland. So my wife and I are both from the same area. We went to the same high school. So, we traveled around right after college, and we did the whole NFL thing, and you're kind of just one city to the next. And then we're up in Canada. By the time we got to Canada, we had already had our second child. So my son Lenny is 6, my son Mick is 4, and then I have a little girl, Rosie, who's 2. And so it was transitioning back home was like awesome. It was so nice to finally be home and to be settled. We felt like we were gone for really a decade. I was gone for more than that when you include Iowa. So it was really cool to finally get back home, and to see a bunch of familiar faces, and be around friends and family. And yeah, we've just kind of, we've grown some roots, and we live on a street that's, right up next to where I went to elementary school, and there's a nice little downtown area, and my kids got Lenny's got a bunch of friends on the street, 20 kids on the street, it feels like. And so we've got the whole, just the classic neighborhood thing going on. Everybody running across the street to other people's backyards, and going to baseball practice. And so, like, it's really dad life, it's family life, and then it's, being a movement coach. And it's awesome that I'm able to do that at home with my family, around, Lauren's parents and my parents. And we're able to see everybody, because we really didn't get to see everybody as much when we were traveling around, especially in those NFL and pro years. So it's really cool to be back home, and to just kind of grow some roots, and to not move around, and just be around family and friends.
No, that's great. It sounds like you're in a really, really good place, and that's great for everybody to hear. And just again, thank you for taking us a trip down memory lane to relive all the great Hawkeye memories that you helped create. And again, we appreciate everything you did as a Hawkeye in your playing career, and how you continue to give back with the being the honorary captain and things like that. And we hope to see around the program more in the years to come.
Yeah, I hope so. I've been I actually was just on the phone with Coach O'Keefe the other day, and so I still keep in touch with those guys. And it's one of those things that it's always going to be a part of who you are. And I think fans can relate to that. I think former Iowa players can relate to that. It really is more than just football. And I don't think I knew that when I was choosing to go to Iowa, but I do think that there was that vibe there, that this place is special. And you can't quite put your finger on it until you go through it. And even after that, it's still kind of hard to put it into words. But it's just a really good experience. And my best friends in the world, and the people I still hang out with to this day, that I go on golf trips with, those are the guys that we battled with on that field. And so you can't replace that. And so it's been really fun, and I enjoy doing these kind of things where I get to bring back those memories. It's because it's very humbling, and it really was, and it is still a blessing.
Oh, we appreciate it, Ricky. We'll let you get back to GOTA, and back to the family. But thank you for taking time out of your day to sit down with Nebraska Hawks Nest. And we always end it with a Go Hawks.
Go Hawks, baby.
All right. Thanks, Ricky.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we do too.